everyone, this is Remigene B. Bagarez for the lesson Student Activities in Spain and Luna and Hidalgo's Achievement. Aside from experience, education is our way of learning things in our day-to-day lives. That is why it is essential to go to school and gain knowledge about everything we need to learn. In the present and future, we have easy access to education, but it is the opposite to the youth back then. As education is limited and is dull that their only hope to learn is to go to far places. Little did they know, their acquiring of learning and studying far away with the beginning of something that would change the situation of their country of origin. So what is the situation back then? A huge portion of Europe was illiterate in 1880s. Education was poor and its quality was very low. The educational system was awful despite the improvements. Primary and secondary school were stuck in their old and ineffective way of teaching. In general, universities in 1867 to 1868 and 1875 were behind, and few people could afford to send their child to school. Even though churches made efforts, still, educational advancement was hard to attain, making Spanish universities in stagnant and old style. And an effect of that is that it prevented students from acquiring greater knowledge than the parishes, which somehow lessened the chances of revolts and questioning of the mandates of the church and its defective ruling. The progress had only begun at the end of 1880s, wherein there was a renewal of Spain's university life. It was in the 1880s and 1890s when Spain opened its doors to Filipinos. That's why Filipino students were able to understand the dealings of Spain's laws and policies in the Philippines. And because those students are now able to communicate or more interactive, ideas became free-flowing. So now there is a rejection and evaluation of the abuses of the church and state in the Philippines that were also opened in class. And proclamation of liberty burned the desires of Filipino students who were awakened to the truth of the Spanish ruling. Hence, the aspiration for independence and Philippine liberty strengthened and numerous church dogmas were rejected. Before continuing, here is a quote from Bill Ayers saying, "Education is the motor force of revolution." Do you agree with it? Definition of concepts: Creoles and Chinese Mestizo. Creoles during the colonial era, the Spaniards born in the Philippines, who were more known as Insulares, Criollos, or Creoles, were also called Filipinos. Spanish-born Spaniards or mainland Spaniards residing in the Philippines were referred to as Peninsulares. Those of mixed ancestry were referred to as Mestizos. Chinese Mestizo is an archaic term used in the Philippines beginning in the Spanish colonial period to describe and classify a person of mixed Chinese and Filipino ancestry. The latter were referred to as Indio. So talking about student activities in Spain, who were those students who studied in Spain for the beginning of activism for the Philippine independence? The period after the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 and the execution of the three martyred Gumburza priests gave birth to a new breed of ilustrados. So, what is ilustrado? Ilustrados constituted the Filipino educated class during the Spanish colonial period in the late 19th century. They were the middle class who were educated in Spain and exposed to Spanish liberal and European nationalist ideals. So because of the dullness of the education system in the Philippines at the time, those rich families or influential families sent their children to Spain to study. So their children are called ilustrados. So example of ilustrados are Marcelo H. Del Pilar, Jose Rizal, Reciana Lopez Haina, Mariano Ponce, and others. So it is said here that most of the early students came from well-to-do families, mostly Creoles and Mestizos, followed by young men of Chinese Mestizo or Spanish Mestizo that came from wealthy native families. So what is the influence or the purpose of the Ilustrados when they studied in Spain? So they studied in Spain because of its political system, religious beliefs, and their educational system that also became their inspiration to start the activism in Spain for the independence of the Philippines. So the Ilustrados worked hard to correct racist images drawn by Spanish writers about the Philippines and the Filipinos. Together with progressive Spaniards, they presented their demands for assimilation, good governance, and representation in the Cortes. The newspaper La Solidaridad and the founding of Masonic organizations were the venues for the reforms waged by the Ilustrados. Rizal later concluded that they needed to return to the motherland and initiate change from within. So they did not only study in Spain to gain knowledge for themselves, but to help their country. So the detailed explanation of this would be done by the next reporter with the lessons, the propaganda movement, the La Solidaridad, and so on. Ending this lesson is a quote from Che Guevara: "The first duty of a revolutionary is to be educated." Next lesson is Luna and Hidalgo's achievement in Europe. Presenting the achievers in Europe, Felix Hidalgo and Juan Luna. Juan Luna de San Pedro y Novicio Ancheta, better known as Juan Luna, was a Filipino painter, sculptor, and a political activist of the Philippine Revolution during the late 19th century. He became one of the first recognized Philippine artists, while Felix Hidalgo or Felix Resurrección Hidalgo, one of the greatest Filipino painters along with the fellow painter Juan Luna in the 19th century, was born in Binondo, Manila. Hidalgo played a significant role in Philippine history for having been an acquaintance and inspiration for members of the Philippine Reform movement, which included the Ilustrados, Dr. Jose Rizal, Marcelo del Pilar, Mariano Ponce, and Graciano Lopez Jaina. The two Filipino artists rose to fame in the year 1884. They won prizes at the Exposición de Bellas Artes de Madrid. According to Rizal, Luna and Hidalgo's achievement illuminated the two ends of España and Filipinas, as he said that they are a symbol of peace and a bond of love between the nations. He also added that change is coming. He also tagged the two in his Brindis speech, creative geniuses. Also, Pedro Paterno made efforts to organize a banquet in his dorm in honor of the two Filipino painters, and it is also said that he idolized the painters. By that time, a liberal newspaper, El Imparcial, covered the masterpiece of the two Filipino painters, which showed the various forces at work in the Filipino movement, gaining attention from the whole world. These are the paintings. First is the Spolarium, a Latin word referring to the basement of the Roman Colosseum, where the fallen and dying gladiators are dumped and devoid of their worldly possessions, made by Juan Luna, gaining a gold medal for the first class. The painting shows how the Filipinos were treated before when they were colonized by Spaniards. It shows that they were forced to entertain the Roman oppressors and the Spaniards with their lives and sacrifice themselves for the Romans and Spaniards' honor. Additional information: in 1886, the paint was sold to Diputación Provincial de Barcelona for 20,000 pesetas, and it is currently hanged in the main gallery at the ground floor of the National Museum of the Philippines. Next is the Vigenes Christianas Expuestas al Populacho, also known as Christian Virgin to the Populace, made by Felix Hidalgo, gaining a medal as a prize for the second class. The painting depicts the persecution of Christians in the days of the early church, when Christians suffered 8 successive waves of persecutions from different Roman emperors, connecting the plight of Filipinos under the bondage of the Spanish Church and State. That is according to Graciano Lopez Haina's toast to the artwork. Hidalgo ingeniously depicted the helplessness of the Christian women with their conviction as their only weapon against the atrocities of those who wished to snuff out the movement. Additional information: unfortunately, the work is now lost forever as the original burned down in a fire at the University of Valladolid in 1939. However, the replica can still be enjoyed and viewed at the Metropolitan Museum of Manila. So that would be all for the 2 lessons. And now it's quiz time. Answer the questions carefully. Write the answers on a sheet of paper, take a picture of it, then please do direct message me when you're done. Thank you and good luck! Everyone, I hope you did well. Have a good day. Thank you and God bless us.